Okay, here we go. Question 19. I'm just going to start going a little bit faster through these. Pause as you need to. This kind of repetition now, practice, but we're going to add and subtract some decimal numbers. So I'm going to do the first two together like this. I'm going to add, and I'm going to make sure I put my decimal first, okay? And I'm going to write my 0 to the left. I've got a 0 and a 2 here. Make sure those are lined up properly. You can add a placeholder if that's helpful for you just to look at that. So we have 0 and 2, 8, 0, 4 and 0, and 1 and 4, 14.82. Now we've got to subtract from that. So these two together gave us 14.82. Now we're going to subtract from that 5.83. Okay, just a little bit bigger than 0.82, so we're going to have to do some borrowing. 2 minus 3, we can't do it. So we're going to have to borrow from that. We're left with a 7. We add a 1 here. 12 and minus 3 is going to give us 9. 7 minus 8. Again, we've got to borrow. We've got 3. We move that over. We've got 1 and 7. 17 minus 8 is going to give us, pardon me, is going to give us 9. And then we've got, once again, we got to borrow down to 0, add the 3. We've got 1 and 3. 13 minus 5 is 8. And we're left with 899. Final answer, 899. Okay, moving on. We got 2.1 plus 0.09. So 2.1 plus line up our decimals, 0.09. Nothing in 9 is 1, 1 and 0 is 1, 2 and 0 is 2. Now we're going to subtract from that 1.61. Okay, again, here we are. We're needing to borrow. We've got 9 minus 1. That one's okay. 1 minus 6 does not work. We borrow the 1. 11 minus 6 is 5. Put our decimal. 1 minus 1 is 0. We're left with 0.58. Next one, 21.8 minus 1.6. 8 minus 6 is 2. 1 minus 1 is 0. 2 minus 0 is 2. That's the first part done. Now we're going to add 9.7. 2 plus 7 is 9. Put our decimal. 9 and 0 is 9. 2 and nothing is 2. So we get 29.9. Let's have a look at our answer key. 8.99, 0.58. Is that what I had? It is. And 29.9. Did I make a mistake? Nope, there it is. Same answer. Very good. Okay, moving on. Question number 22. More exponents. All right, so like I said before, we have exponent rules where we can add exponents, but that only applies if we are multiplying. We are not multiplying. So even though we have the same base, we cannot just combine the exponents. That rule only works for multiplication. So we have to evaluate each of these. So 5 squared is going to give us 5 times 5, which is 25. Then we're going to add to that 5 to the 0. Any number to the power of 0 is always 1. So we get 25 plus 1 is 26. Next up, again, addition, 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 addition. We cannot use the rule to simplify, so we're going to have to just add them all up. Okay, so 2 to the power of 4. You could either multiply that out, or if you've been practicing your powers of 4, you'll know that 2 to the 4 is 16. We're going to add to that 2 to the power of 3, which is 8. And notice this power is going down each time. 2 to the 4, 2 to the 3, 2 to the 2, 2 to the 1. So it's going to be a factor of 2 smaller each time, meaning like divided by 2, right? So we have 2 to the power of 2, which is 4. 2 to the power of 1 is just 2. Anything to the 1 is 2. And 2 to the 0, anything to the power of 1, or sorry, anything to the power of 0 is 1. Okay? And anything to the power of 1 is whatever it was before. So that remains as a 2. So here we go. So we can add this all up. 16 and 4 is 20. 8 and 2 is 10. So 20 and 10, that's 30. 30 plus 1, 31. Now we're on to a fraction addition question. So I see I have a mixed number here, so I know I'm going to have to change that so I can add. Well, I mean, I could add the fraction portion and add the whole number portion after. That's another way we've done this. We did these a couple different ways where we add all the whole numbers and then we add all the fractions together. Right, and then we could also do it that way. So let's convert this to a mixed fraction for this one here. Okay, so we've got our 1 over 8 plus our 1 over 4 plus, convert this to a mixed fraction. 3 times 2 is 6, and then 6 plus 1 is 7. So we get 7 over, we leave the denominator as it was, 7 over 2. Okay, excuse me. So now we can add these as soon as we have a common denominator. So looks like our lowest common denominator is going to be 8. We can get 8 if we multiply 4 by 2. So as long as we do that to the top and bottom, we'll have the same equivalent fraction. And here we have to multiply 2 by 4 to get 8. So we do that top and bottom. And now we're going to have 1 over 8 plus 2 over 8 plus 7 times 4 is 28 over 8. Okay, so we've got 1 plus 2 plus 28 over 8 is 31 over 8. Now, I could do a couple things here depending on what I'm asked, how I'm asked to give my answer. I could simplify this fraction if possible, but there's nothing really that divides into 31 and in 8. So if they're not asking for a mixed fraction, I could leave my answer like that. If they're asking for a mixed fraction as an answer, I need to divide how many times. I have to see how many times does 8 go into 31. Well, 8 times 2 is 16. We can go in twice. 8 times 3 is 24. We can go in 3 times. 8 times 4 is 32, so 8 cannot go in 4 times. So we can go in 3 times. 3 times 8 is 24. So we would be left from 31. We would take the difference between 31 and 24. We'd be left with 7. And we would have 3 and 7/8. Okay, so we could have that as a final answer as well. Let's do this one other way. So let's do this where we add mixed fractions. I'm going to remind you guys first of a way we could, let's just do a different example here first, okay? Something like, let's say 2 1/4 plus 3 3/8. So one way we can do is we can add the whole numbers together and add the fractions together. So 2 plus 3 will give me 5. 1/4 and 3/8. Well, let's do this here. 1/4 plus 3/8. I need a common denominator, so I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 2. So that's 2 over 8 plus 3 over 8, and I get 5/8. Okay, so I had 5 plus whatever my fraction part gave me. My fraction part gave me 5/8. So 5 plus 5/8, that's just 5 and 5/8. Just write it like that. Okay, so you can do your whole number part, then your fraction part, and then add them together. What if I had this? Okay, well, let's say I had a 7 here instead. So everything's going to stay the same, except instead of 3/8, I'm adding 7/8 in this problem. I would have 7/8 here, I would have 7/8 here. 2 plus 7 would give me 9. I would have 9/8. Now from that, I have an improper fraction. So if I've already added my 2 and my 3 to get 5 in that particular problem, erase that. Well, then I've added the 5. Now I have to add whatever is left here. I've got 9/8. But if I'm going to add this to something like a whole number, I don't want to have it with an improper fraction. I'm not going to write this as 5 and 9/8. So I'm going to want to write this as a mixed fraction. 8 goes into 9 one time, and we're left with 1/8. So now it would be like we're adding 1 and 1/8 to 5/8. So once again, we can add the whole number part. 5 and 1 is 6. And then we've got just one fraction part left, and we'd have 6 and 1/8. Okay, so that's the method when we add mixed fractions together without converting them to improper fractions. First, we just add or subtract their whole numbers and their fractions separately, and then we have to finish the problem that way. Okay, so if you want to write that down or you want to practice that one, you pause that or go back. This was just an example. So I'm going to show you how that would work if we did problem 24 like that. Okay, so if we did problem 24 like that, we would have we could add all our fraction parts together and all our whole number parts together. So here I only have one whole number. There's nothing else to add. 3 plus, what's in front of the 1/4? Nothing. It's like 0, right? There's nothing there. So similar to like we did in the last problem, we would add the whole numbers, but there are no other whole numbers. So we're just left with 3, and then we're going to end up putting whatever our fraction part is here. Now, if these fractions add up to something greater than 1, that's like an improper fraction, we're going to have to convert it and add it to 3. But if not, then we'll just tag that fraction on at the end. So we have 1/8 plus 1/4 plus 1/2. We're just doing this fraction portion, okay? So plus 1/2. I'm just going to separate that here. Okay, so again, we've got 1/8. We could rewrite this as 2/8 and multiply top and bottom by 4 and rewrite that as 4/8. Now we add these at the top. 4 plus 2 plus 1 is 7. We get 7/8. And that's the sum of our fraction parts. So we have 3 was our whole number plus the fraction part. And it's not an improper fraction. We don't have to do anything else with that. And there we have our same answer as before. Okay, so two different ways. I converted my mixed fraction to an improper fraction, and we added that, but then we had to take our answer and convert that back to a mixed number. In this case, I just added my fraction parts and my whole number parts separately. There was only one whole number here. And also this didn't end up being an improper fraction, so it was really easy. We just tagged that on the end, and there we're done. Okay, so two different ways you can do that. I need this space now, so I'm going to erase that. But again, if you want to write that down or if you prefer doing it that way, you can try it like that, okay? No matter what you do, make sure that you are trying these problems on your own, that you can do them on your own, and you pick whatever method works for you, okay? Again, let's have a look at here and see they just did it quite simply. They changed our fractions to have the same denominator, and they just added the fraction parts, and we just had the one whole number. That's a kind of nice and neat way of doing it too. I take up more space, so I like to write a lot. 26, 31, 3 7/8. We're right on track. Okay, question number 25. So we're multiplying numbers together here. Remember, so if I'm multiplying fractions by a whole number, we can consider this like it's over 1, right? 40 divided by 1 is just 40. So if that helps you to realize we're multiplying the numerators together and we're multiplying denominators together. And I'm going to use blue. Okay. So I could do this a couple ways. Let's just do it where we multiply everything together, right? So we've got 1 times 1 times 40 on the top. And don't forget, we've got a negative sign here. So we have a negative number times two positive numbers, a negative. So let's just keep our negative there. We can even just leave it outside of this. Here it is, negative. And we've got 1 times 1 times 40. It's going to give us, well, I could even write it out here. And on the bottom, we have 4 times 8 times 1. I don't really need to see the 1, 4 times 8. Okay, so I've got my negative sign, 1 times, so I've got 40 on the top. I've got 8 times 4, 32 on the bottom. Now I can simplify that. I could divide top and bottom by 2. If we can see what our lowest common denominator is, though, there's a larger number that we could divide top and bottom by. if you're good with your multiplications, you might notice that these numbers are both something that can be divided by 8. Okay, if not, then divide by 2, and then 2 again, and 2 again, until you get it to you can't divide anymore. But here we have 40 divided by 8, so that would reduce to, so here's my negative. 40 divided by 8 is 5. 32 divided by 8 is 4. So we've got negative 5/4. If the question's asking for a mixed number, we'd have to convert that. 4 goes in one time, and we're left with 1/4. If they don't care about it being as a mixed fraction, we can leave it as an improper, then we would have that. Okay. Now we also could have reduced beforehand, so that's the other possibility. So once I have this set up, I could also see that I've got a 4 here and a 40. I know I can divide, since that's on the top and that's on the bottom, I can divide that here and here, right? And we'd be left with 1, and here we'd be left with 10. Okay, and then we could have multiplied, what else? Is there anything else we can simplify? So then we would have negative 10 over 1 times 8 over 8. That could be divided again, top and bottom, by 2, and we would still get negative 5/4. So there's a number of ways you can do. You can multiply everything together and then simplify, but it's usually better if you can simplify ahead of time. Then you have smaller numbers to work with. Okay, so we'll just move on for now from this problem. And again, here we go. They did theirs. How did they do that? Kind of first two numbers multiplied together. They sort of did it in stages, right? So here we multiplied 1 times 1, 4 times 8, 32. And then we left this part, 40/1. And then they multiplied it together, got the same fraction we did, and then reduced afterwards. And then they left it as an improper fraction. So more than one way to do things. So it is good to be able, if you can look at the way I've done it and the way they did it and understand that we're doing the same thing, that'll also just make your math brain even more flexible. Okay. Next question. We're going to finish these two and then pause the video. Go on. So I've got negative 1/2 times, actually I don't need to rewrite that. So times a negative. So remember, we're not doing addition. So we're not subtracting this number from here. We say multiply, and then you see a negative sign. It's going to be separated by parentheses. So that's clear that what we're saying is we're multiplying by a negative number. Okay, so we can think negative times negative is going to give us a positive, right? So let's just do this in steps like this. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 3 is 6. Negative times negative is a positive number. So we're not going to put a negative sign here. And then we have times 18/1. Now we can either multiply these and simplify, or I can realize that I can simplify this now. So 18, I can divide this by 6 and this by 6, and that's going to give me 3, and that's going to give me 1 here. So now I've got 1 times 3 is 3, and 1 times 1 is 1. So in other words, our answer is 3. We'll just check that here again. So they didn't show all those steps, okay, but it's kind of, by this point, I think we got this. I don't think we need to write so many steps, but you can see here positive, and then they just simplified this 18 divided by 6, 3 on the top, same as we just did. I just did a little less explanation to get to the answer. Here we go. Let's do the next one, and then we'll take a break. Okay, so here we go. 3 times 1 is 3. 5 times 2 is 10. We're going to multiply that too. Negative 20. So we have that negative there. We're just going to put that bracket to help us separate that. Understand we're multiplying a negative number. We're not subtracting or anything like that. So we've got 3 times 20 is 60. 10 times 1 is 10. And a positive number times a negative number is a positive number, or sorry, is a negative number. So we've got negative 60 over 10, and we can easily see that 60 divided by 10 is just 6. So answer negative 6. And again, if you look at your solutions that have been uploaded, you can see they did it basically the same way. All right, I'm going to take a pause here. See you on the next video.